Hello and welcome. My name's Casey. This is Monday, 5:30, mindfulness meditation half hour. Glad you can make it. This is the second one in April 8th. I took some psychology classes in college, and I remember one particular class we were studying anxiety disorders, panic attacks, the symptoms of depression and things like that. And the instructor put this chart on the projector or the screen, and it showed outrageous levels of mood disorders, things like depression, anxiety, suicide, a lot of serious mental health conditions. And I raised my hand and I asked, well, where is this from? Is this like the world? Is this the Western society? Where is the data coming from? And she said, the professor said, this is just from the US. This is a problem that is unique to the United States of America. Other places in the world don't have these kinds of numbers when it comes to depression, anxiety, suicide, things like that. And that really, unfortunately, it didn't surprise me. And I think that that speaks volumes to just how pervasive it's become, that it would be surprising if it was the other way around, where the mental health was actually a condition that was applauded and pursued and attainable and socially, um, not just, I mean, socially popular. And that's just not the case. Um, in America, we have it so good in so many ways that that leaves a lot of space open to us. And unless we are able to fill that space with things that are healthy and things that benefit us and things that help us, self-actualize and self-develop and, become better versions of ourselves, whatever that may mean, if we don't find healthy ways to do that, the space will get filled with other things. And unfortunately, that translates into poor lifestyle decisions, bad habits, drug addiction, eating unhealthy foods, being addicted to social media, things like that. This is less of a social statement and more of a contextualization of where we are in the world. There's a saying, more money, more problems. And the US is one of the richest countries in the world. And also, we have one of the greatest wealth disparities as well. And so we oscillate between these extremes. And it really shows. The mental health is certainly a crisis in this country, as are addiction and obesity, things like that. All of which I think signifies a strong disconnect between ourselves, a strong disconnect between who we think we are and who we wish to be, and the potential there that lies within all of us. And again, if you can't fill that space, because with modern conveniences and money and certain luxuries in a first world um, society, the the space that that leaves open can be plentiful for us. Unfortunately, if we don't find a way to fill that space with things that will really fulfill us in a greater sense, not just instant fulfillment, which is part of the problem. Now, if we don't find ways to fill that space, then it will be filled with things like depression, like anxiety, like not feeling good enough, not feeling fulfilled. And oftentimes, what we need to do is not learn how to love ourselves or learn how to treat ourselves better. We need to unlearn how we've been destroying ourselves. We need to unlearn how negative and cruel and unsupportive we've been to ourselves. And oftentimes that translates into other relationships with other people as well. If you're not happy with yourself, you tend to make it known, whether or not we do it consciously or otherwise. Passive aggressiveness is one of many ways that we deal with not being satisfied with ourselves. There's a kind of ripple effect there that affects not just us and the people around us, but indeed society as a whole, hence the data that I spoke of in that psychology class. And it makes sense that everything is related. So the idea of learning how to do something different is not necessarily the approach that we need to take. We can unlearn various social, cultural conditionings that have brought us to the place where we are now. And we can kind of think of it as taking layers away from ourselves until we get down to the core, the fundamental, the understanding of who we really are. And that takes time and space. And fortunately, when we meditate, we gain time and space. We gain the time because we bring ourselves back to the present moment. The only true time where anything happens is in the now, the present moment. And we start to get more space, and that we feel the space around us, and we increase the space between stimulus and response. We become comfortable with not just the idea of doing nothing, which the idea alone makes people very, very uncomfortable, and they fill it with food, drugs, exercise, even anything to excess can be very detrimental. So we fill the space with nothing but more space. And in doing that, we start to unlearn the feelings of anxiety that we get by not doing anything. Because in this society, we tend to equate productivity and success with how much we can get done in the shortest amount of time, which can really run us down. And so when we meditate, we get time and we get space. We get the time and we take it back to ourselves. We sit in the present moment and we notice what comes up. And with the space, we gradually increase the space between stimulus and response, but we're also able to fill the space of the present moment by becoming comfortable with just experiencing whatever the present moment is giving us. And that is a radical, radical practice, revolutionary, especially given the society that we're a part of, the time period in which we live. A lot of modern conveniences. Most people, I would say, feel very uncomfortable, again, just with the idea of sitting down and doing nothing, let alone the practice of sitting down and doing nothing. People jump out of their skin. There's the idea of unlearning. And there's a book called The Alchemist, which I've never brought it up before. Paulo Coelho, he's, I think he's South American, one of the best-selling authors in Brazil, I think, or something. The Alchemist is a great book. It was very profound when I read it when I was 18. I haven't read it in a while, but the other day, a excerpt from the book came onto my feed, and it said, maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. I'll say it one more time. This is from The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The social cultural conditioning creates layers and layers that make it hard to get through to ourselves, our own true understanding of ourselves. And the more time and space that we get to study that, to study the breath, study the mind, study the body, the more space we get when we steady out. And there was a yoga class that I took, and the instructor said, steady your mind, steady your breath, steady your body. And I thought that she said, study your mind, study your breath, study your body. I thought that's really cool. And she said, steady, but I like the idea of studying, because when we meditate, that's what we do. We sit down and we study what we're thinking and just notice, study it, watch as it comes and goes. Same with physical sensations, same with emotions, physiological sensations. And by studying that, we start to get a deeper sense of what's real and what's not. Oftentimes, the pressures that society puts on us is not only not real, but the opposite of the fundamental version of ourselves. And so to unlearn that, we need to be still, because otherwise we're just perpetuating the cycles that have led us to where we are now, some of which are helpful and practical, others of which are not at all. Many of these social and cultural conditionings work against us in ways that we might not even be aware of until we sit down and start to cultivate that space, start to grow the space between stimulus and response, start to fill the space with mindfulness, that energy that we accumulate when we meditate. And so by studying the breath, noticing the impermanence there, studying your thoughts as they come and go, noticing the impermanence there, studying the body and how everything is constantly changing, we are able to embrace the impermanence of everything that the present moment gives us. And not only that, but we're able to go deeper, stopping and looking deeper. We can start to unravel or take away some of these layers that don't serve us in one way or the other until we start to get down to the fundamental true version of ourselves. And that's the potential of meditation. The fruit of meditation, as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, is understanding. And that understanding often takes a long time, but when we take time out of the equation, it's just a practice. So we might not figure it all out this week, but I don't think we're meant to, because the conditioning and the scripts that we're given, to quote the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, that's a great book too. He talks about scripts that we're given. And most of the time, we don't even realize that we're rehearsing from these scripts that were given to us from our parents, from our bosses, from society. We can start to rewrite these scripts. We can start to rework a lot of these layers, take away, unlearn much of what doesn't serve us. And within the space and stillness and mindfulness, we start to gain some understanding. Sometimes it's incremental, sometimes it's huge, but either way, that's what the practice is. That's what the practice does. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So find a comfortable seated position wherever you are. Take a few deep breaths, close your eyes, and let's get still, relax. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. When you're ready, gently blink your eyes open. About 15 minutes there. Nicely done. There's a Chinese saying that I've um, quoted often in these meetups, which is for knowledge, learn something new each day. For wisdom, unlearn something each day. But I will say that the two are not mutually exclusive. Knowledge can become wisdom, wisdom can become knowledge. Just like when you let go of one thing, you automatically, inherently gain something else. It's like when you say yes to a situation, you're saying no to many other kinds of situations, and vice versa. It goes both ways, always. And whether it's knowledge or wisdom, both require kind of understanding. And fortunately, understanding is the fruit of meditation. I want to thank you for sharing your meditation practice with me today. Always a pleasure. Let me know if there's questions. Thanks.